I have to congratulate you on the Pittsburgh Steelers' victory yesterday.
Yes, indeed. What a game. A little bit lopsided in each of the two halves, but turned out right for the Steelers, and looking forward to watching them play in the Super Bowl.
All right, on to Dallas against the Green Bay Packers. Hey, in the spirit of bipartisanship, sir, you and Senator Bob Casey, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, have announced that you're going to be sitting together during President Obama's State of the Union address tomorrow. You just heard Mitch McConnell there say, look, I don't care where people sit. They want to know what we're going to accomplish. What do you have for that reaction to that?
Well, I think it's true. It's much more important to see what we accomplish and how we're able to work together for the people that we represent. But sometimes we can increase the likelihood of civil discourse and being agreeable when we disagree simply by spending some time together and getting to know each other and being reminded that the other political party may be the opposition, but they're not the enemy.
So, Senator, let me ask you, how did this come about? Who called who?
Senator Casey called over and invited me to join him during the State of the Union, and I was happy to say yes.
And so is this, we heard from a congressman last week who's a Democratic member of his caucus had called him as well in New York. Is this something you think that is a Democratic strategy to have their members call up Republicans and make the offer?
Oh, I don't know. It may have been that in other cases the Republicans made the invitation. I really don't know. I don't think it's a very big deal. I think it's a nice gesture, so we're going to do it. And there are a lot of ways that two senators from different parties can both work together to represent their state. There's a lot of things we're going to disagree on, but there's a lot of ways we can work together, so I look forward to having a very good, constructive relationship with Senator Casey.
Well, Senator, let me ask you about a big Wall Street Journal op-ed that you had in the paper last week titled, How to Freeze the Debt Ceiling Without Risking Default. And you say this idea between either we raise the debt ceiling or we default is a false choice, that we're being a bit misled. Can you tell us about it?
Well, that's exactly right. There are some people that just want to go about business as usual. They just want to keep spending, keep running big deficits, and keep increasing the debt. And since we're about to reach the statutory limit of our federal government's debt, it needs to be raised, and they want to raise it without making any big changes. In order to increase the likelihood that they'll get the votes for that, some have suggested that there'll be a huge financial crisis if we don't increase the debt. And specifically what they've implied, and in some cases come right out and stated, is that if we don't raise the debt ceiling so that the government can borrow more money, we'll default on the borrowings to people who've already lent us money. And that is simply factually untrue. It's completely untrue. The total amount of our federal budget that goes to servicing our debt is about 6%. The federal government will take in 70% of everything it needs to spend, everything that's projected to spend, I should say, from tax revenue. It's only the remaining 30% that we don't have that has to go out and be borrowed. So with that much income coming from income taxes and corporate taxes and all the other taxes the federal government collects, there's no reason whatsoever that we should default on our debt. And just to be absolutely sure, I'm going to introduce legislation that would instruct the Treasury that in the unlikely event that we don't raise the debt ceiling, payments of interest and principal on our bonds to our creditors will be the first priority.
All right, we're interviewing Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. Sir, I hate to ask you how optimistic you are based on what a Democrat plans to say during the address tomorrow night, but President Obama, on this issue of debt reduction, will he have anything concrete to say, or is he going to remain elusive in his address on how we lower this debt?
Well, we don't know, of course, and it's quite common for presidents to be kind of vague in general during State of the Union. That's not a criticism of President Obama. That's a general observation. So we'll have to see. But I have to say there have been some encouraging signs that the president realizes he's got to move to the center. That the American people really disapproved of the very liberal basis on which he governed in the first couple of years, his administration. He's hired some folks that are more centrist in their orientation, including a new chief of staff. So I'm hopeful that the president is going to be willing to work with us on getting spending under control, on focusing on job growth, which needs to be our number one priority. So I'm eager to hear what he has to say on Tuesday night.
Well, I can't help but notice that giving the Republican response to his address is Paul Ryan, the congressman from Wisconsin, very outspoken Republican, especially on spending, a very vocal critic of President Obama's spending. So I guess you've got one man in the flanks ready to take him on.
Well, Paul Ryan has done a great job. He is the chairman of the Budget Committee now that Republicans are in the majority. He's been really a visionary who's provided a lot of leadership about how we can get our fiscal house in order, how we can wipe out these deficits, and of course how we will have stronger economic growth and job creation if we do. I mean, we will have a weaker economy if we keep running these deficits, and we'll have a stronger one if we limit government spending and get deficits under control. So Paul Ryan is a perfect guy to give the response to the President's State of the Union.
So, Senator, looking at your column, having read it with great interest, I'm curious to know if you are prepared to vote against raising the debt ceiling if you don't see significant and impressive cuts.
Yeah, I've said all along I need to see two things. I need to see real cuts in spending and real reforms to our process so that we don't continue with business as usual. Those are the two things that I need to see in order to vote to raise the debt ceiling, because I think it's extremely irresponsible of Congress to simply raise the debt ceiling and continue with business as usual when we're running the kind of deficit,
so, Senator, real quick,
the kind of debt we have.
Real quick, how many billions of dollars do you need to see cut? Give us a ballpark number.
Well, it depends. You know, it's going to be a function of how far out we go. Is this something we do over just a couple of years, or is it something that we're able to extend to 5 to 10 years?
Is $100 billion in 1 year enough?
That's on the low end of what I think is adequate, and that's just for 1 year. Of course, actually, it's for the remainder of this year. But there's also important process reforms. I'd like to see us adopt a balanced budget amendment that limits total spending as a percentage of our economy and requires a supermajority to raise taxes. I think that'd be an important process.
I agree with you there. Republican Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania, sir. Tell Senator Bob Casey we said hello.
I will do so. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks so much.
All right.